out more, I would love to hand over the conversation to Netaka White. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Zach, thank you, and team. I don't remember all your names, but thanks for introducing yourself and especially getting us all in the room and making such a good presentation. Question. If you're currently involved in a hemp business, food business that could go lateral into hemp, CBD, something, just raise your hand. If you're already got something up and going, great, cool, nice, and keep your hands up. And if you're close to getting a hemp business going or are fantastic. Okay, I'm in the right place. So we're going to talk about creating some long-term value for your businesses. We're going to look at how products and culture work together so that you can be and be successful. We don't want to spend the whole time just talking nuts and bolts, so I'm going to wrap up with a little bit of encouraging news. My background started in hemp anyway, started in 1990, actually it was before 1995, but I started working with hemp fabric, Hungarian hemp canvas, designing this line, artisan gear. This should be, there we go, artisan gear. You can still go online and see them today. They're smart though. They figured out after we had 28 products in 4 different colors and just way too many SKUs. I think they've got like 4 products and 2 colors, and it's really nice. So that company's still going. I think what I really remember about that time though was, let's get this legal. That's why I started the business. I started the business because of fabric design, but I really got into hemp because I said this is an opportunity for farmers, for business people, for good culture to develop around an important plant. And I also started lobbying the State House in those years to try to work towards legalization of hemp agriculture. After I sold artisan gear, the next was completely, well not completely, but mostly non-hemp. And I took what I'd learned in hemp fiber and a little bit of agriculture and built a following by helping other people get their gig up and running. Mostly farmers who wanted to grow oil seeds to reduce their carbon footprint, completely eliminate diesel from their use in their tractors, and feed the byproduct of sunflower seed production to their animals. And we could show during the years and I mostly did that through the nonprofit sector, but through the years of 2004 to about 2008, when it's got an energy crisis of sorts, diesel was running $4 to almost $5 a gallon. A farmer could save considerable money, and the payoff, the return was very reasonable by growing sunflowers and canola, and that led me to start Full Sun Company, back to the private sector. Borrowed a lot of money, lost a lot of money, learned a tremendous amount in developing this brand, and we sold the company, brand included, but to a company that wasn't so interested in carrying sunflower oil. You may have heard of Victory Hemp Foods. They're up from Kentucky, and they wanted to expand their footprint in the Northeast. I want to shout out to Joel, who you'll see on the panel there. Joel introduced me to Chad Rosen, who's the head of Victory Hemp Foods. Okay, no CBD in this one. It's grain and seed production and protein. But this is the best part of this cycle, 2013 to Hemp 2.0, was getting involved as a very small time hemp grower. And this is our crop here in Waitsfield. It really gave me a chance to see or be reminded firsthand from the days when I was growing the other kind of cannabis and wasn't supposed to be, how to get this fiber and seed crop up and going. Okay, so enough about all that. See if I can figure this thing out. Okay, I love circles. Business, if you're thinking of it as a straight line, you're wrong. You're going to go round and around and around again, and this is like life, like a lot of things. But we're going to fill this circle with what I would call, these are the currencies that I'm hoping, or I should say, I have learned the hard way to pay more attention to, and so I'm going to share this with you. This is going to be familiar to most of you, and I'll pause for a minute. A couple of themes that we've already seen here is this thinking around what am I doing today in what crops are we working with, what products are we developing, what's our agriculture like, that are going to be thinking not just what value it is today, but what are we going to leave for tomorrow. And we have to be paying attention to that. So this is here to give you a momentary thinking about, are we talking about organic? Well, could be. That may be just the way to go. I certainly encourage that, but for different reasons, you may be thinking conventional. But just think in terms of what is going to be best for the soil. You're going to build soil health. Regenerative agriculture is a new term for kind of organic light, meaning sometimes, particularly with hemp, that when you get that crop in the ground, you're going to need to go beyond cultivation. In other words, there's going to be a plethora of herbs in there, or weed pressures that you're going to need to. They're going to impact your crop terribly. So find the least damaging way to get your crop in, and be thinking long term. In other words, go organic, but I know, practically speaking, sometimes that may be difficult and not get you to the market you need to be in. So we're mostly familiar when we think of capital or currency, financial capital. I do have a number of resources that'll be available offline, and so my email is going to show up down here. Just write me afterwards. One of them I can send you is if you're farming or thinking about it, there's a budget. So financial is really, it's your balance sheet, it's your income statements, it's all that important stuff. We worked with QuickBooks, inventory management systems, a number of really high-paid and smart accountants. So if money and numbers, if numbers isn't your thing, don't feel like you have to learn it all. Just farm it out. Get the right people in the room, because you've got to be, obviously, as much as you're watching the balance sheet on the soil, you've got to be paying attention to what's showing up on your balance sheet in QuickBooks. This is a agricultural enterprise budget. We've got inputs. You can adjust the inputs, so you're going to look at your costs that you're paying for seeds. You're going to look at your potential yields. And for instance, in an average case of Vermont right now, and this is where that circle, where the whole picture comes into focus, is by utilizing the stalk and the seed heads, as we discussed, a farmer could net as much as $690 an acre revenue. If you're not getting anything if you're not getting any value, any monetary financial value from the stalk, you're going to be looking closer to 300 or 400 an acre. So if you're thinking in terms of your business model, you have to look at the whole plant, and whether that's CBD farming. Certainly you're focused on the flowers. I had a great little conversation over lunch. Apparently people are starting to look at the roots and the medicinal benefits that can be gotten from that. That's fascinating. So keep that kind of thinking, that holistic thinking going. And third currency, and by no means the least, is about your relationships with the people that you work with, the people in your community. This is an example of building our social capital. We're together here to be talking about what it is we're learning. Do that more and more. Look for those opportunities to share your wealth of knowledge, your curiosity. If you're a boss, ask questions of your employees, please. They bring value to the table. They're bringing their capital to your business every day by showing up. The exchange is not just financial and monetary. There's integrity that's built into this relationship, this social capital. It's how do you show mutual respect. I can't emphasize the importance enough of building social capital in your business, in your life, and together I think this is all part of making a successful operation. So I'm going to really get down into some of the nitty-gritty here. To have that kind of a successful, holistic, functional, vibrant, successful, profitable business, if you're in the hemp business and you're not paying attention to food safety, preventative controls, and regulations, you won't get to where you want to go. You have to be thinking in those terms, and if you're already underway, I think you can have an appreciation for that. I'm just going to pause for a minute. I think I have a note on this I wanted to emphasize. There are loads of templates online to get your SOPs Those are your standard operating procedures. Your SSOPs, those are your sanitation standard operating procedures. Your general good manufacturing practices, templates that will help you build that. That's just sort of, if you're not quite sure what that's all about, that's fine. But as a business owner, you owe it to yourself and especially to your customers to figure out what that's all about. These here, the SOPs, are going to be essentially the backbone of your food safety plan. If you're in business and you're putting a food product out there, FSMA, Food Safety Modernization Act, is here. It's now. I suggest, if you haven't already started on your food safety plan, so what you'll want to do is make contact with your local, local state, like probably at the county level here in Vermont. We have I think 1 or 2 folks that will be your food regulatory person, the person that's going to step in and say, okay, right now, here are your deadlines. Here's how I would approach that. In other words, it's too complex. I can't tell you, and this isn't the right setting to go into those details. But for instance, the types of things that that your food safety regulator, your local food safety regulator, will point out in order to be compliant with your FSMA and your food safety planning. So, what are your preventative control plan measures? When your seeds come in the door, there have to be some tests associated with that. I'm going to come back to that and talk about what you're testing for. You've got to keep that product dry to the proper moisture, free from pests, etc. So you're identifying each of those potential hazards along the way, and a system to monitor and control the internal temperature, humidity, managing pest infiltration. These are all really critical elements. It's great to have the vision. It's important to start with that, but your business is going to succeed on how well you pay attention to these nitty-gritty details. So around specifications, I have learned that so when we press seed, or if you look at a basic seed analysis, it'll say maybe 30% oil or maybe 35% oil, that kind of thing. You'll be hard pressed to get 20% maybe. So at every step of the way, there's going to be waste. There's loss. You have to count that in. You've got to factor that in on your balance sheet. And the first place that you're going to help reducing that loss is by being clear about your specifications. If you're a farmer, your supplier should be very clear about what they're looking for and what they're not looking for. So when that seed comes in the door, if it's off spec, if it's dirty, if it's got bug shells in it, bug bodies in it, any number of things that are likely to be in there, that's going to lead to waste, and somebody's going to have to either absorb that or have it be charged back. So that 30% oil to about a 20% fiber ratio. If you're looking ahead to seed processing business, this is a good number. I'd say Jan, you showed one of the X59 as being one of the better commercial varieties. Our experience with that, and here's the other thing, is it's important to know what the fiber oil makeup is, but taste it. Get a sample of that. Be sure, even if you crunch it in your mouth, but ideally you could get somebody to press it. You need to know that you're happy with those flavor profiles. So the ratio of oil to fiber is critical for how it's going to work in the machine, but even more as critical is how does it taste. That's what your customers are going to mostly come away with. You as the operator on the machines are going to be banging your head against the wall because there's too much fiber in this X59, and I really wish I could go back to the other one that has 3 or 4% less. So the reason I go down that rabbit hole for a minute is just to say it's so easy to overlook these things. But when you're into the level of managing your costs, watching your margins, keeping an eye on those on your balance sheet, passing your food safety inspections, and all that, it comes down to a lot of little things. Okay. List of what to specify. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, but these are all really important. If you're in the food business, hemp food business, or if you're a grower. Write me and I'll send you the list and such. Minimum seed size, moisture content, purity, so that's how much trash is in from the combine or not. Sclerotinia, Okay, that's a mold. These are all things that have to be measured, and there's thresholds, and you better be below it or it's not going to work, or somebody's going to have to pay twice for it. Evidence of rodent infestation, feces, and evidence of other animals eating on the seeds. What's the THC content? That's fine if you're growing some kinds of cannabis. It's not so good if you're wanting to put hemp hearts on the market. The aerobic colony count, coliforms, yeasts, mold, bacteria, E. coli, salmonella, staphylococcus, gluten, peroxide. That's a measure of stability. Okay. So that is a that's kind of a minimum list of things that are going to be tested and documentation that's going to follow. This is all kind of under specifications. So you have to be clear from the beginning, and don't think that someday I'm going to get this stuff figured out and I'll build it into my business plan. Start there. Start in the right place. Start with the end in mind. The end in mind is that you're going to have the highest quality products on the market. People are going to come back to you. They're going to find a path to your door because you've made the extra effort to make sure that you've got the highest quality products on the market. And you've got the documentation to back it up, and you've got the flavor profile that nobody's going to argue with. Organic certification adds value. I think it's really important, and it's very difficult for hemp food businesses right now to get organic certification. If you know what I'm talking about and you haven't looked into OneCert, they are a national, I think an international certifier. Look them up online, onecert.com, ONECERT. They're a little more expensive, but we couldn't get our facility, Victory Hemp's facility, when I shepherded the organic certification through. We had to go out of state, we had to go out of area to get it. That ties back to USDA regulations, or rather the interpretation of the Farm Bill, USDA's interpretation of it in regards to the organic program. But other certifications. Kosher may really be a strong line in for you, depending on maybe you're making a protein flour. Maybe you want to have, the matzah market is ripe for hemp flour. But so you're going to need your kosher certification. Anyway, these are things that will add value. You must start with a batch and lot tracking system. Again, day one, don't say someday we'll get to this. You start with this, okay? I would recommend a date-based system. The point of this is at each time your product changes phase or form, your lot number has to migrate along with that. So my seeds are going to be one thing, maybe based on the date they come in the door. Your oil is going to have something because now your seeds are oil and they're cake, and you track. It's not complicated, but it's really critical that you get started on the right path with that and build it. And it's hard to change, but it's not impossible to change. So don't worry like too much. Oh my God, am I doing this right? But just assign it so that you can track your ins and your outs, and we'll come to this in just a minute. This is all this is around, I call it culture, because how are we going to build that? What the business isn't just about profit. It's about your products, what you're saying to the world by how you're building a company. And I've learned the hard way that these are some fundamental building blocks to that culture that I'm suspecting most of the people in this room would want to either build into their company or be part of taking part of the products or services from companies that understand these things. Lab test, document everything. I've kind of touched on I've given you an idea of the importance of documentation, but the testing is that's the verification, okay? And if you're in any of these certification programs, you'll need to have lab tests. So we test seed before we even accept a seed. We want to know what's the oil content. As the guy who's going to turn on the press and get the oil and the cake out of there, I need to know what's the oil content, what's the fiber content, and I don't want to find that out after it gets in the door. So there's certain things you're going to test beforehand, and then at the end of the day, here's this cake, here's this protein. Well, how much protein's really in it? I need to know. I need to know whether we say there's 50%. If we say there's 50% protein in this pouch, there had better be. Okay. I'm not going to be able to go too much into this. Look into lean methods. So lean is about, what I take it is, you want to keep waste to a minimum. Chickens, so here's my story. Chickens, grease, and biodiesel. One way that we incorporated lean methods into ours is adding value. How do we add value to, another way to add value to your product line? in addition to minimizing the distance that I got to go to get the wrench that the guy should have put up on the, that's a waste right there. The time that I take to go get the wrench that Tom should have put up back on at the tool bench is one way you can look at waste. But chickens, grease, and biodiesel. So all of our water lines are hooked into a grease trap. Eventually, that grease trap has to be sucked out because it's too thick to float. But for a year, all the oil that goes into the drain is going to get pumped off and into a drum. And so about every couple of months, there's another 50 gallons of hemp seed oil. Or in our case, before that was sunflower oil or canola oil. Call up the biodiesel guy. He drives in, puts his pump in the 55-gallon drum, drives away. That product gets made into biodiesel. Otherwise, it's going down the drain. It's just gumming up the sewage system or the waste lines. The chickens come into the picture because at every point along the way when you're processing that seed, you're going to have waste. It's going to hit the floor. It's off spec, one thing or another. So find the people in your community that need whatever it is you have. Okay, in our case, turned out to be good chicken food. It's high protein. It's got fat. It's got good flavor. If you're in the CBD, if you're making CBD products, I don't know what that comparable chicken feed is, but you do. And so find the people in your community to build some collaboration, build some connection, build some community around the things that might be thought of as waste, but in fact, in this case, we'd only get a little bit for the biodiesel oil. Sometimes we get something for the chicken feed. It depends, and but there are other higher value things you can do. But I'm talking about kind of how to manage the waste stream, and what was it? Chickens, grease, biodiesel. Yeah, we got that. Okay. All right, products. If you're putting oil seeds, hemp seeds, through an oil press, what business are you in? Trick question. You're in the protein business. 70% of what comes out of the oil press is cake. It's biomass. It's protein. So you better not get into this thinking I'm gonna make hemp seed oil and sell it to cosmetic companies or, I mean you can, but I'm just suggesting please do yourself a favor, do the research, talk around, find out where your protein's going to go because your protein's going to be piling up. For us, we work in 1-ton bulk bag batches, so we were batch system. So the protein's piling up. And here's this little container of oil, beautiful oil, incredible cold pressed hemp seed oil, much higher value. But you're going to have this problem. Then it comes back to there'll be bugs, there'll be different things are going to get in there. So you have to be able to control that. You're in the protein business. I loved the way Maddie had the videos, and had I had a little more time, I think you'd enjoy seeing some of the equipment. But basically, when those seeds come in, as I say, we worked on a batch system, but we'd bring the 2,000 pounds in, the 1 ton of seeds in, come in the door. And it's just a matter of kind of moving them through. You let machines do that, right? The conveyors are your friend. The augers are your friend. We hand handle as little as possible. We started at a scale making this is pre-hemp, but it's all a very lateral transformation. So most of my experience came with working sunflower seeds. I made oil for Victory Hemp for the last 6 months and protein. So you want to handle as little as possible. But think in terms of, okay, we're only working with 2 or 3 tons a month now, but things go well, buy your machines at least twice the size. Maybe it's 3 times the size. You have to do the math. You have to figure out where your money's coming from and what you can afford to do. I'm just saying, some of the equipment that we inherited from Victory was so pathetically small as to be useless. I mean, and you just have to be very careful that you don't think, well, I'm going to save $1 here by getting this tiny little $500, oil press or something, and then find yourself in a state of demand and you're having to spend 3 times as much and waste that $500. Again, documentation. So if you're interested in seeing some production log templates, I'd be happy to share that with you. The point is, again, you need to track in what's coming in. You need to track what's coming out. That's your balance sheet. That's your way that you're going to see how you're doing and where's the money going, where are the resources going. We see that, I've seen that in our projections, we were projecting 3 to 4% waste or loss in the mass balance. So pounds in, pounds out. 7% on a good day is what we were losing. So if you're running numbers, be pessimistic, and then be pessimistic on top of that. You can't you double the amount of money that you think it's going to take to buy that equipment. I'm serious. Double the length of time that you think it's going to take to raise your capital. Okay, you're looking at least a year. And ask for $1 million. Don't ask for 200,000. Raise $1 million. Don't try to. If you think you need 200,000, raise $1 million. And watch your shrink. It'll bury you. I mean, you have to really be careful. Okay, I've had so much fun, but I also didn't have so much fun because I was just, you can just get into this stuff and you're just cranking all the time. That to me is no way to get to success. Okay, take some time, literally, to enjoy the people around you, to enjoy and love the work you do. Take a little extra time in the morning if you can. I'm a power napper, so I'll drink a couple of less cups of tea in the day because I built it into my schedule that I need 20 minutes. I need 20 minutes. I got a little place I can go to. It's there. Whatever it is, you've got your thing, kind of your personal yoga. I really encourage you not to separate that from your business. It'll make all the difference. And really, that's how am I doing on time? I wanted to leave time for a few minutes of questions, if you have any. But really, I want to encourage you to don't let up, but also find a way to take your time and really enjoy this journey. We have so much to learn and share with each other, and I hope you take time to learn and share. That's it. Thanks. Are there any questions of a technical or philosophical nature? I'd be happy to give it a shot. Yes?
You talked about evaluating the product, the seed, before you start going through the pressing process. Yeah. How much protein, how much oil, the quality of the oil.
Yeah.
How do you actually do that on a bag of seeds that comes in before you deliver 1 ton into a press? How do you assess that?
We require that of the grower or the supplier. So it depends on how your contract is built. And I didn't touch on that, but the importance of agreements before you get the bag. So everything's under contract agreement. So we specify this is what needs. I ran through that list. These things can't be in there, or these are the thresholds. So there's a test is done, and I can provide you with the labs that we use and that type of thing. But in a 3 or 4 day period, and about $50. We'll get that profile will come back with any number of parameters that we're looking for. But those, in terms of how it's going to operate in the machine, those are the most important for us anyway, the oil and fiber content and moisture.
And government regulations determine your thresholds?
In some case, food safety, not specific government. We know that if your plate count is up above 10,000 ppm, that's going to lead to a health issue. So it's not so much that it says you have to remain below that, but food safety knowledge tells us these are the thresholds that we need to stay below. Anybody else? All right. Thank you. Oh, thanks.